I helped my brother get off in the shower after he broke both arms. So my brother was camping with some friends when he ended up breaking bones in both of his hands while rock climbing. He had to be driven home after visiting the hospital where he got a cast on both arms. A bit too much, I think. Both of our parents were on vacation while he was camping, so it was just me at home. It was supposed to be a week to myself, visiting friends, going out, etc. But now I had my brother to care for who can't pour his own cereal in the morning. Anyway, he was tired when he arrived home as he'd been waiting in the hospital for around 5 hours and had a 3-hour drive home, so he passed out in his bed instantly. The next morning, he needed a shower due to all the mud from camping and obviously couldn't do that himself. He awkwardly asked if I would help him turn the shower on and we could figure things out from there. Long story short, we realized I would have to scrub his body because obviously both his arms are in casts that he isn't allowed to get wet. We wrapped his arms in plastic bags to keep them dry, and I helped him strip down to his underwear. They were tight and white, so I could pretty easily see his manhood, which kind of turned me on. I started washing his body. And when I started rubbing his upper legs, he got quite turned on and I could easily see his cucumber. I commented on him getting excited for his sister and he said something I couldn't understand and blushed a lot. We moved past that, and I would tease him every now and then by bumping my elbow into his cucumber or positioning myself so his manhood was an inch from my face. Only for a minute or two, I said. Anyway, he took them off and his manhood sprung up in front of me when I grabbed it with both hands and started cleaning it. He turned red again and screeched a bit after realizing I didn't really want to clean his body, but give him a scrub down instead. He ended up finishing in my hands, which I cleaned up with the shower, and I helped him dry off and get changed.
Update: my 32M, ex-wife 33F, divorced me after a personality change. I found out I have a brain tumor. How do I move forward? So first off, thanks everybody for the comments and advice. I didn't expect my post to get as much attention as it did, but it was really helpful to get some perspective. Not to mention lots of support, including some very thoughtful messages. It got reposted on other places. I didn't even realize there was an entire ecosystem of TikToks devoted to rehashing Reddit posts. I guess I'm old lol, including some news sites, and a few journalists and podcasters reach out to me. I'm touched that my stories seem to resonate with some people, but I'm a pretty private person and I'm working through a lot right now, so apologies if I have responded to your message. Long story short, I've decided not to contact my ex or her brother for the time being. I know some people were probably rooting for a happier or at least more interesting ending, but this is how I'm handling things for now. I think the majority of the comments on my last post encouraged me to reach out just to inform my ex of the situation and maybe give her some closure. Some suggested making a post on social media so it would get back to her, or delivering a message through a mutual friend. For a while, something along these lines is what I wanted to do. Now for the social media thing, I don't actually have any social media other than an Instagram account for my pup Archie. With like 10 followers and a Facebook account. Using a fake name with 0 friends, I use it for Marketplace. But that's kind of besides the point. I think more importantly, not reaching out right now just feels like the right move. I guess the true question is, what would be the best way to handle this for my ex? How does this affect her? And honestly, the more I think about it, the more it seems like reaching out is this selfish move. She's always been a strong, resilient person, so I have no doubt she's managed to build a good life and move on. And I'd just be potentially interfering with that, stirring up old hurts and wounds and maybe adding a lot of confusion and other complicated emotions. And then for the selfish perspective, I don't think it would be good for me either. I admit, a part of me fantasized about a situation where we got back together, all was forgiven, and we lived happily ever after. But I think that's exactly the problem. I realized there was no way I was going to be able to temper my expectations. So right now, with everything going on, it probably would be a bad thing to add into the mix. I'll always love my ex-wife. We grew up together. I loved all of her quirks and her silliness and her strength, the way she always stood up for what she believed in. The fact that we always had so much fun together. Whether we were playing a board game, she learned quick and kicked my ass, except for Race for the Galaxy, or buying a house or going on a bike ride somewhere or overanalyzing a movie or TV show we'd watch together. She's brilliant and hilarious and gorgeous, and a total weirdo. Very early in our relationship, she asked whether I was a barfer or a shitter when I got sick. I was also the DM for aid in campaign that she played in, and her goblin rogue will always be peak tabletop gaming to me. I loved hearing her thoughts about everything. I miss her every day. And who knows, maybe we'll reconnect at some point in the future. I'm not ruling out ever contacting her. And in case it wasn't clear in my last post, I never thought my tumor exonerated me of responsibility for everything I've done. I know I still need to take ownership of my actions and learn and grow from this, so that's why I'm going to focus on getting better. My surgery is getting scheduled, and then I'll just have to take it one step at a time. There's a lot of other stuff going on too. I was applying and interviewing for jobs before all this and actually got 2 offers recently, so I'll be communicating with them about whether we could delay the start date, and worst case, if not, my current job is secure and medical leave won't be a problem. I also bought another property, although the sale is still conditional, so I could walk away if I have to. We'll see how it goes. All this to say, life is pretty hectic right now, but I honestly feel good, and for the first time in several years, I'm looking forward to what comes next, whatever that may be. Anyway, thanks again, everybody, for reading and commenting, sharing your advice and stories, well wishes, and love. I might post another update down the line, but fair warning, I'm hoping it's just as boring as this one. Told her, I'm just going to leave my ex and her family alone for now and focus on getting better. Also, I shared this in a comment on the last post, but I'll put it here too. Pics of Archie.
My husband is in love with his student. I have no idea what to do. I've decided to talk to him. I know I've been avoiding this since months, but after reading all the responses, I feel it's time I rip that band-aid out. I'm going over to our house. I'll update on what happens. My husband and I, both 35 met in college. We fell in love and got married 8 years back. I gave birth to our daughter in 2020. My husband is a professor at this med school. He's a doctor himself. My friend Sarah also works in the same college, and she's in the same department as my husband. Few months back, in December, Sarah took me out for lunch and told me that she suspected something's going on between my husband and this med student, 25F. She claimed she'd seen both of them give yearning looks to each other. She said that she's known my husband for so long, and she'd never seen him talk to any other woman like this, that he'd been so aloof around women all these years, but it's just different with this one girl. In that moment, I had laughed at her face. I remember telling her that she's jumping to conclusions based on these supposed yearning looks. That's why I didn't tell you before, she had said. I was confused too. It's not like he goes out of his way to talk to her, but whenever they do talk, it's like watching a slow-burn romance movie. She looks at him like he's Brad Pitt, and he looks at her the way he used to look at you. I remember the exact words because they stung. Internally, I was breaking down. Externally, I just smiled and told her that she's probably overthinking. That night, I casually mentioned this my husband. I was laughing at the absurdity, and I expected him to join in and deny the wild possibility that he's in love with a student, but he didn't. Instead, he looked at me, all teary-eyed, and said, I'm sorry. I can't get her out of my mind. I've tried, trust me. I should have told you sooner. But I thought I could save our relationship. I really wanted to. I asked him if he cheated on me. He said no. He said he didn't even talk to her, nor did they have any contact outside of college, and that he completely understood how morally depraved it is to try and pursue a relationship with a student. She wrote him a letter about a year back, confessing her love for him, and he had told her that even though he was into her, nothing would come out of it. Apparently that was when the yearning looks had started. I honestly don't remember how I reacted then. I think I just started packing and came to live with my parents along with my daughter. I've been living with my parents since then. Half of me wanted him to come and beg for forgiveness, but he never did. He comes by sometimes to spend time with our daughter, but that's it. He never talks about the elephant in the room, nor do I bring it up. I keep checking that girl's social media. She's insanely beautiful, almost doll-like, and intelligent. I can't help but think that someone like him should be with someone like her. He's always been very good-looking, and I'm more of a plain Jane. She's the Meredith to his Derek. I don't know what to do. What do I even tell people? I don't even know who I am without him. Some part of me still wants him to come back. TLDR husband just admitted that he's in love with this young woman who also his student. She loves him too.
I told my 27F fiance, 27, to stop talking about his sick mother. He to stop talking to me, and I don't know how to fix this. Was I wrong? Hello, this is something that's been building up for a while now. My fiance, Ryan, and I got engaged back in December, and in total we've been together for 5 years. The anniversary was in March. So far he's had no red flags, and I'm positive about that. He's kind, listens to my endless ramblings about obscure topics I know he knows nothing about, but still listens because he knows I care about it. He cooks because he's fantastic at it and it's one of his love languages, and he knows when to be silly and serious. Overall, he's truly a man I love, and I don't feel any doubts or worries about us. Or I did. His mother is a long story. When my fiancé was little, 6 or 7, his mother lost a baby to SIDS. It was so traumatizing for her that she left him for 4 months. He was looked after by his aunties. When she came back, she was the quintessential helicopter parent. She made them share a bed till he was 11. It only stopped because he wanted it to. She didn't allow him a lock for his door. When he bought one himself, he got a friend to install it. She actually cried. Whenever he showed the slightest passing interest in something, she'd jump the shark and buy things associated with that interest. When he started listening to Disney music as a preteen, she went and bought him all the sing-along DVDs and merchandise and a little Playmix set and a few instruments and posters, etc. When he started to play tennis, she bought expensive shoes that were meant to help decrease the stress on one's heels. He stopped playing when his friends grew bored of it, so he did too. That was a common pattern for years. And he's told me how whenever he told his mom he'd lost interest or never was that interested in the first place, he'd feel so much guilt and shame and anxiety that he was letting her down. When he finally moved out, only because he started college. If he hadn't, I have no doubts she'd have kept him forever. He had very little life skills. He could cook, and that was about it. He couldn't schedule appointments, didn't know how to drive, he didn't even know how to properly wash his own clothes. His mother had kept doing them for him all through his college years. Even now, she still babies him so much. When we visit, she only speaks to him, and it's in like a slight baby voice, like it's slightly higher pitch. She'll offer to still do his clothes, to cook for him, to give money, etc. I feel bad for Ryan because she doesn't treat him like a grown man. He's tried to get her to change, but he said she's stuck in her ways. And she's stonewalled every attempt I've made at a connection or even an amicable relationship. She only speaks to me when it's solely about Ryan. Then her eyes light up and she pulls out pictures and mementos and talks about him for hours. But I've noticed she speaks very little of his life after we met. About the job he started, the apartment we moved into together, all that stuff, like it never happened. I've tried to get Ryan to just see how unhealthy their relationship is, but he just tells me that she has no one. She's only ever had 2 serious relationships in Ryan's whole life, that he's her only child, and that she just worries about him. He's got minimal boundaries established. If he ever offered her to move in, I would honestly debate ending our relationship. In January, she had a nasty fall that broke her hip. Then she got pneumonia, and that almost wiped her out. Since then, she acts like she's made of glass, not even leaving bed when, according to the doctor, she should be doing some form of physical therapy. She doesn't even make her own food anymore and has Ryan do everything for her. He cooks, he cleans, he stays to talk for hours. When he comes home from work, he's here for at most an hour before he's off to her place. Sometimes he even sleeps there. I feel like he's just forgotten about me completely. He doesn't even text much anymore. I'll be left unread for hours. Then I'll get a brief response. He's not cheating, his location is always on, and it's only ever at the shops because he's there buying his mother things. In the brief time he's home, either during that hour or when he sleeps here, all he does is talk about his mother. Either her medication, how weak she is, how lonely, how sad she is. He's made her the only topic of discussion. It's frustrating when I want to speak about literally anything else, because it always goes back to her. Me? Oh, work was a pain today. The quota was 200 bottles, I barely got it done. Ryan, I don't know if Mom will ever be able to work again. She might have to go on disability. I feel unimportant and discarded, but I know he's not doing this to hurt me, but he doesn't seem to listen when I try to tell him his mom's relationship with him isn't healthy. Well, recently I had my breaking point. I had a slight spill at work and hurt my hand and wrist area. It's just painful, but it'll be fine in a week. Because of my current one-handedness, I asked Ryan if he could prep my work lunches for me. He's done so in the past without my asking. Just to be nice. When I asked him, he sent this, "You know I won't have the time to come over. Mom needs me to do her foods shopping, then pick up some clothes. She can barely walk. Can you please just make your food? I know it'll be tough, but please just get that I gotta be there for my mom. She's in a much worse state than you." This kinda broke me a bit. His lack of care for my injury, the sort of dismissive way he spoke to me. The hyper-focusing on his mother still. It broke the dam. I told him over text. For ***'*'*'*, sake, could you just for once this year be there for me? I asked this one thing, and you can't do it. Your poor mother just refuses to get off her ass and be a grown-up. If you're treating me likely this now, I don't imagine it'll change if we get married. For once, can you just not talk about your sick mother and prioritize your future wife? Because at the rate you're going, I won't be your wife and you'll be alone. I felt it was harsh even as I was typing it, but everything I said felt true to me. Just anger building up for nearly 3 whole months of us barely even talking. I can see that he's seen it, it shows read. He hasn't responded, and it's been nearly 2 days. I had my sister come over and she's doing my food. She's also how I'm getting into work given I can't drive. I hadn't told her much because I just feel embarrassed at being discarded by someone I love. I think I messed up bad. I think I was too harsh. I really don't know how to proceed. If Ryan will respond, he might even call off the engagement. I'm just feeling terrified I let my anger get the best of me and I ruined the best relationship I ever had. How do I get past this? Do I talk to Ryan or wait for him to speak? I haven't been in anything like this before. I'm scared if I reach out, he'll snap back and block me or something. Please help me. Edit. I see recurring questions, very much my fault. I felt the post was bloated so I skimmed a few details. My bad, I will admit, sorry. I have many times offered to help, either to take over his duties for a day or just offering him a night away for some personal time. I once considered asking his friends, but that felt too invasive, so I scrapped the idea. NIL is late 50s, 58 to 59. She was perfectly healthy before this. She's fine weight-wise, decent blood pressure, etc. That's a contributing factor with my skepticism in relation to her health, that she's exaggerating it. And I do fully admit I was mean with my text. I felt bad back then and just feel worse now. But I can't take it back. I just want to know how to proceed, that's all. Even if we split, I'd still want to give a heartfelt apology. I still care for him at the end of the day. He's given me some of the best years.
Update. My husband is in love with his student. I have no idea what to do. For those who don't want to read the boring details, in short, I have decided to go ahead with the divorce. Long story. The day I made the post, I met up with Sarah for dinner. I thanked her for telling me about my husband and the student, and also for being such a good friend. I asked her about my husband. She said there's nothing unusual. He's been a bit withdrawn and aloof with everyone lately, but that's about it. Yesterday I went over to my house unannounced. He was there alone in his office. I told him I wanted to talk. He said he'll explain everything. So apparently this woman has had a crush on him since 2 years. Her friends ship her with him. She would stare at him during her rotations and would blush whenever he looked or talked to her. Back then, he didn't think much of it. Many girls have had crushes on him, and he always ignored it. About 1.5 years back, they were in the same research group thing. I don't know how this works, but there were 5 to 6 people along with these two. Because of this, they had to spend some time together working, and it was then that he started noticing her. He went into detail about how he was impressed with her intelligence blah blah blah, and her beauty blah blah blah. The moment he realized that he had a crush on her, he dropped out of the research thing. This was a year ago. Few weeks later, she gave him the letter confessing that she has feelings for him. The first thing he told her after reading it was, "You can get into trouble because of this." She didn't care. She wanted an answer. "Is it all in my head?" she had asked, to which he replied with, "It's not just in your head, but nothing can come out of it. I hope you understand." That was the last time they interacted. According to him, the yearning looks Sarah described were more of awkward eye contacts than anything else. He told me that even though he is still attracted to her, he has no intention of pursuing any sort of relationship with her regardless whether we stay together or not. He said he's willing to change his job and go to therapy. I told him to give me some time to think about it. To sum up, this has been going on since 3 years. Not once did he mention anything to me. The student and him spent a considerable amount of time last year working on the research. He told her he liked her back lol. He's still very much attracted to her. And that's why I've decided to go ahead with a divorce. I don't think I can trust this man again. And a relationship without trust isn't something I am interested in. I've told my parents about it. They're not exactly on board, but they're still supportive. I've also contacted my lawyer about the same. It's going to be a long process, I believe. That's it. I believe this is my last update. TLDR, he's still attracted to her. I won't ever trust him again. We're getting a divorce.